How's it going, everybody? Driver53 here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the most profitable crop. And we're not only going to be looking at the base gain crops, we're actually going to take a couple of them and do an extra process on top of it to be able to give you a little bit more money for that crop. I know it's an extra process, but it's relatively cheap and easy to be able to do. So I want to take a look at that here too. And it's not a production facility. The first thing we're going to take a look at is the crop yield, and all the values on the screen here are going to be with the yield bonus at 100%. Now, we do know that some of these crops you can get a little bit more of, but all of these are set to 100%. And what does 100% mean? Well, that means that these crops have been maxed out 100%. Now, some of the crops, sunflower, potatoes, and canola, you are able to get a little bit more with bees, but I didn't want to do that here. I wanted to show everything on an even playing field. So some of these values you can get just a little bit more with that extra little bit from the bees, but I wanted to show everything straight across the board at 100%. Also, you notice that I do not have wood or poplar on here. We're going to be taking a look at that in a future video. And the reason for that is because all of these values are set to 1 hectare. And with wood, we know that you can have a really dense forest or a really lightly sparse forest, and also poplars too. There's multiple ways you can plant those. So I removed those, and we're going to take a look at those later. All of these values have been taken at your average price on normal economy. Are you going to be able to see more? Absolutely. Can you see less? Yes, you can. The good rule of thumb is about 150% is what you want your target to be. The next thing I want to take a look at is the average crop price. And when you combine both of those together, you're going to get your gross crop profit. And what I mean by that is the amount of profit that you're going to see from 1 hectare of each crop. Now, that does not take into consideration any operating costs, and that's your equipment, that's your leasing, that is your cost of your field, that is, fuel, workers, any of those things. We're completely eliminating those. And the reason is because not everyone's going to use the same size equipment and play the same way. Some people start really small and they only want to work themselves. Some people want really big farms, so they, have a lot of really big equipment, which can get the job done a lot faster. And they use workers too, so they lose a little bit on that. So all of those factors have been removed just so this is a clean slate, and you as the player get to decide if you want to spend a little bit more money on some of those things or you want to save a little bit. So let's go ahead and walk across this chart here for wheat. As you can see in the second column, we have the crop yield. This is 17,800. And once again, this is your field at absolute max yield bonus, and it's 1 hectare, not an acre, but a hectare. The next column here, you can see your straw yield. And we know that with wheat, barley, and oats, you are going to have straw. So that does need to be considered in part of your profit. And we know that all 3 crops produce the exact same amount of straw on 1 hectare. So we have that value listed as 73,600 liters. The next column here, this is your average crop price. And as you can see, that's $607. And once again, this is your average on normal economy. And I am going to be releasing a video here in the next couple days that's going to have all of these crop prices for easy, normal, and hard difficulty. The next column here, this is your average straw price. The next 2 columns here, you can see this is your gross crop profit and your gross straw profit. And the way I figure that is you have your yield and you multiply that by your average sell price. So for wheat, we have $10,797, and for straw, we have $5,446. Now, another factor that I wanted to figure into this was your seed cost per hectare, and for wheat, that's going to be $450. Now, are you going to be able to buy seed at a cheaper price once the mods start coming out? Absolutely. I know that 82 Studios has already released a silo that you can get it at 75% of this cost right here, but all of these are at base game because different players are going to use different mods for their seeds. And the final column here, you can see this is your total gross profit. So if you add everything together or subtract things out, your seed cost, it's going to give you $15,794. Now that doesn't sound like a bad price at all. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the other ones. So as you can see, we have wheat, barley, oats, canola, sorghum. We have grape, olive, sunflowers, soybeans, maize, which is corn, potatoes, sugar beets, and the next line you can see here is sugar beet cut. I went ahead and added this because the chopper isn't really that expensive and you can do the job while you're filling up a trailer. So it's not really a whole lot of extra time to be able to do this. It's just a little bit more of a cost for the piece of equipment, but your silos are going to store it. After that, we have cotton and sugarcane. The next 2, grass silage and corn silage, I wanted to add these in here also because they are products that you can do relatively easy. All you're going to need is a forage harvester and a trailer, or you're going to need a mower and a baler that you can wrap with. So these are pretty common tasks that I feel like a lot of players do, so I wanted to add those in here also. And the last 2 items here are grass and hay. Now the grass is going to be grass that you plant and put into a field, and then the hay is just, you're going to be able to cut it and then dry it. So as we come across here, you can see that no other crops other than wheat, barley, or oats are going to have any of the straw. And the average crop prices aren't that bad either. And it's really interesting that your higher yielding crops don't always have the highest price. They're quite often the lowest prices that you're going to see. Now we're looking at the gross crop profit, and some of these really stand out as being really, really high, like sugarcane or your grapes and olives. But there's some hidden costs with those that you really need to understand. And let's go ahead and take a look at the seed cost per hectare. And oh my goodness, grapes and olives are astronomically expensive to be able to actually build your vineyards. Now, they're never going to need to be done again, so as long as you plan on being on the map for quite a while, this is going to pay off for you, but it takes quite a while for those to be able to pay for themselves, because as you can see, the gross crop profit is only about $20,000. Now, that is on average and on normal economy, but that's a really hefty investment to be able to do there. And as you can see also down at the bottom on sugarcane, that's going to be $10,800 for your seeds, but you're going to be able to harvest those for 3 times. So if you're looking at your second or your third time on this, then you're not going to have any seed cost on that. So you can basically cut this down into a third. A little bit under $3,300 is what it's going to cost you for each cycle of your harvest. And the last column here is your total gross profit. These are all of your profits from selling your crops minus all of your seeds. And as you can see, the grapes and olives, they're in the negative. But if you plan on having your vineyards for quite a while, they are ultimately going to pay off, especially if you run them through the production facility. I highly recommend that you do that because you are going to get a ton of money just from those. Now we're going to take a look at the same chart, but with some conditional formatting put onto it. And what that's going to show is which ones are really good and which ones are not so good. Here it is. As you can see down at the bottom, corn silage is your #1 most profitable crop. Now, I know it's not a typical crop that you do, but I feel like the harvester isn't that expensive compared to another harvester, and all you need is a trailer and then just a bunker to be able to put it into. Now, some people might say, well, it's not a real crop, you have to do a process to it. But to me, you just store it in a silo. It's no different than if you're going to put it over into another silo and let it sit there for some time, until the price goes up. You're letting this sit over there too. Now, you're going to have to compact it. I get that, but I still think this should be a viable option for players to be able to do, to be able to make the most amount of money that you can. Coming in second, we have sugarcane. As you can see, that is $37,781. That is no surprise here. The surprise was the corn silage. And coming in third, you can see, is the sugar beet cut, and that's at $35,430. Now, all of these are per hectare, and that's a crazy amount of profit, especially when you compare them to the other crops. And what really stands out with the other crops is that the crops that require straw, you are getting a bit more money out of that, about $3,500 more, which is really, really interesting that they're rewarding you for having to do that extra work to be able to have that extra equipment. And it's really interesting that I don't think we have a super crop anymore. And the reason I say that is because, a lot of these crops that are in that 12,000 range, you really only have to do one thing to them, right? You don't have to do a secondary process, picking up straw, anything like that. And, the ones that you do have to do that to, it's almost like they are going to be, a little bit more profitable now, especially if you're doing a non-seasonal gameplay, because oats, you're going to be able to flip that around, like every 4 months. So I guess in reality, oats might be the super crop if you're picking up your straw. Now, if you're not picking up your straw, it might be one of the other ones. But they've got such a long growth rate that I really feel like oats is going to be the crop to do right now. Well, everybody, that's going to be it for today. But don't forget, I do have a few more videos coming out that's going to take a look at the average crop prices for easy, normal, and hard economy after the patch update that we recently received from Giants. We're also going to be taking a look at how big your fields need to be to supply a production facility for a full 12 months. That way you don't have any slowdown and you're just cranking on that thing the entire time. And we're also going to be taking the information that we looked at today and combining that with productions. And what I mean by that is we're going to look at how much profit you can make on 1 hectare of each one of these crops if you run them through the production facilities. So if you're interested in those videos and you want to stay up to date, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Have a great day, night, evening, everybody. Until next time, this is Driver 53, signing off.